Hello everyone, I'm the Thomas Tua. Now, I'm making my first official video, not counting this stupid YTP I made, and I decided, what's the best way to start a channel? Well, I've decided I could compile a list of the top 10 most relatable Thomas stories, mostly from the classic era, if not all. I think there's like one exception, that's an honorable mention too. So, the point of this video was just so I can really have a first video of me talking. It was supposed to be a Thomas Series 1 video, but that's taking a while, so yeah. Also, I really want to make a Christmas video, and it'd be really weird if that was my first video. So, here we are. This is the top 10 most relatable Thomas the Tank Engine episodes. For number 10, I've put Bowled Out from season 4 of Thomas and Friends. Bowled Out isn't very relatable, and it's really only here because I didn't know what else to put for number 10. 9 through 1, those are all well thought out. Number 10 is something I had an issue with, and I decided to just go with Bowled Out because it's normal to get annoyed, and it's like, I have a little sister, and that's where most of my annoyances come from. It's not really like that type of annoyance, more like a threatening type of annoyance in this episode. But, I don't know, I couldn't really figure out what I should put for number 10. But I guess just feeling the annoyance of, others' egos, that can be quite relatable, but that really only happens on certain days. Now, let's get into the real meat and potatoes. Number 9, Diesel Does It Again. So, there are many types of people in this world, and this portrays people who cannot be helped. In season 3, this follows season 2, where a close shave happened, which we actually might talk about. Anyway, Diesel does it again. Diesel is sent to work with Duck and Percy. This shows the friendship between Percy and Duck, and Duck doesn't trust Diesel at all. So, what happens? They go on strike. Now, most TV shows would give Diesel a redemption arc of some sorts. Even the CGI series did that. But nope, this episode showed that not everyone can be helped. And although Duck and Percy were happy about it in the end, that's not always the case in real life. Thomas and Stepney. It's not the most fleshed out episode in the world, and a lot of people might not see this relatable. But jealousy is quite a big thing, and especially today's society, especially if you're a teenager like me. Now, as a certified Asian, I always get compared to my cousin, and I kind of take jealousy sometimes. I don't show him said jealousy, but if he sees this video, I get jealous. I don't think you're higher than you are. Anyway, this kind of shows Thomas growing to that comparison. By the end of the episode, he's numb to it. I've been in real life. When I was 8, my parents would compare me to my cousin. I get real emotional about it. But nowadays, it's just kind of in the norm, and I'm cool with it. Like what happens in real life. So, cousin, if you're watching this, don't think you're any higher than you are, because you're not. I've decided to pair these two together since they are sequels. Well, one is a prequel, one's the sequel. So, we are talking about Diesel's Devious Deed and A Close Shave. These two episodes just kind of feel like real life to me. It's basically kind of how a week goes. It gets bad and then the weekend happens. But then there are all those quizzes on Friday, which I guess represents the crash. But after that, it's finally all over. But that's not the only way it's relatable. Diesel in Diesel's Devious Deed is a bully. And no, he's a menace. at the end of the episode, I freaked the heck out because, like, you know how Duck isn't really seen anymore? I'm like, is this when Duck got banished? But no, I recently, not recently, but like, when I was getting back into Thomas, I found out he went past season 2. Like, he was even in some of the CGI series, but I digress. These 2 episodes show how a comeback story really works. What I love about this episode is kind of like how season 2 builds into it. With Duck's debut episode, the big engines presumably kind of take a disliking for him due to the right he starts at the sheds with Percy. And now, Diesel is talking about Duck making fun of big engines, and the big engines probably believe him. And that's what gets Duck banished. And that's kind of how stuff goes in real life. Luckily, a close shave also happens in real life, or in this analogy, and you get redeemed eventually, and it feels so nice. I can't even describe it in words. Just watch the last clip of a close shave.
A few days later, when he came home, there was a really rousing welcome for Duck, the Great Western Engine.
Thomas's train, most commonly known to being one of the worst of season 1, despite Thomas and the guard being right there.
Rubbish!
Anyway, Thomas's train is kind of lacking in terms of story, but where it strives is relatability, in my opinion. It's almost like a curse. Like, every time I forget something in the stupidest way possible, my mind just thinks, oh, this is what Thomas did in that one episode. It just is so relatable. It's something I always think about, so... Yeah, this is the only one where I've actually thought about the episode while said event happens to me. Like, I remember, like, one time in 2nd grade, I forgot my backpack, and then I'm like, damn it, I left the coaches behind. Yeah, quite the relatable episode. Edward's exploit. I'm pretty sure I don't even need to explain this one because it's Edward's exploit. We start with our enemies and friends. Well, they're all friends, but like the people who put us down and the people who put us up. And this is just a story of overcoming challenges that we might be made fun of. And this is a really nice, relatable story. Like, I think this and the next one are the last great relatable stories, and then the last 3 are slightly a bit harsh with it in terms of relatability, but this is really nice. This is really nice days, and definitely the next day of this episode in this analogy, if you get what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, it's a nice story of overcomings and something we can really face in the real world a lot. And in the end, everyone may just find equal grounds. Although sometimes that's a bit unrealistic. All at Sea, known to be one of the greatest Thomas episodes of all time. Duck wishes to go far beyond the horizons. He wants to know what's out there that's not on the rails. Percy, who actually has a strong belief against this, takes the idea down a bit. But the thing is, unlike the last story, Percy's not in the wrong. This story is about finding your place in the world. Some places you're just not meant to be. And that's perfectly okay. Now, I could explain it quite good in my opinion, but honestly, the narrator says it best.
Duck still wonders about the lands beyond the horizon, but I think he knows that sometimes the best travels are those we can only dream about. Don't you?
Put Upon Percy is so unbelievably relatable. Percy is feeling put upon. which actually just means he feels like he's being overworked. I think you know where I'm going with this. Percy struggles throughout the day while he's really just being made fun of for thinking, like, oh, you think you're working too hard? Well, you're a steam engine. Deal with it. You're working too hard. You're a man. Deal with it. Like that's kind of how the relatability goes into it. And this is the thing. It gets worse. Avalanche comes. You are struck. Well, where Percy is trapped with rocks, it's kind of like us being trapped with like stress and responsibilities. But sometimes we can get out, and probably with the help of others too. And by the end, we got a great new paint job. This episode is so unbelievably relatable for no reason. Ladies and gentlemen, the most relatable piece of Thomas media out there. Oh, wait a minute, this is a movie. Yeah, due to the fact The Great Discovery is a movie, I can't count it because movies have a lot more time to breathe than episodes, especially considering we're talking about the classic era. And those are 4-minute episodes compared to this hour-long film. Anyway, I'm going to talk about The Great Discovery nonetheless, but this is your warning. It does not count. I mean, it technically won, but it won the battle. It didn't win the war. The premise is Thomas finds a missing town, known as Great Watertown. Now, Thomas is pretty happy with his achievements. He gets a bit cocky about it, and then so Top of Mind gets a new engine, again, to fill in Thomas's role. This is like more of an extensive version of Thomas and Stepney. Only this time, this is if Stepney was directly replacing Thomas, and if all the other engines really did see Stepney as a better Thomas, because it wasn't like the random jealousy for absolutely no reason. I mean, the jealousy came from the fact they both had famous branch lines, which was admittedly kind of stupid, but I guess Thomas had to go through that to mature up. But in this story, he's directly being replaced. And at one point he crashes, so Stanley has to even take his role as the leader of the reconstruction in Great Watertown. He gets really sad about this, so what does he do? He makes a train of cars for Stanley. That was definitely way too much for him to pull. And he destroys the tower at Great Watertown. And by the end of it, we get this scene which I could cry too. In fact, I did cry the first time I watched it. It was so unexpected.
No one spoke to Thomas. He was no longer in charge, and he felt he was no longer wanted.
Anyway, after that, Thomas goes through an amazing adventure trying to redeem himself. And by the end, Stanley has redeemed himself to Thomas, and Thomas has redeemed himself to the rest of the engine friends. Well, actually, they never hated him to begin with. They went on a whole spree looking for Thomas. Even the kids got off school, which... Imagine if we got off school every time a locomotive went missing. That would be so nice. Anyway, at the end of the day, Thomas thought about how he wanted to be the leader of the track. But we were all leaders of the track. And then the movie ends. That's definitely a relatable character journey and a nice one. Admittedly, Stanley is kind of a bland character, but what he represents is what really matters to the plot. Because Stanley in this plot is more like just a nice guy who just happens to be way better than Thomas in literally everything. Like that one cousin. Back to thing I said, Thomas and Stepney, don't forget it. Also, yeah, it's just really nice character development for Thomas, and the audience grows with it. I grew the first time I watched it. This is a great film. If you haven't watched it, I'm sorry if I just spoiled it for you, but go watch it anyway. The execution of the film is way better than the summary I just gave. Okay, our number one pick is Trust Thomas. Trust Thomas could seem like quite an odd pick for a lot of reasons, but on a day-to-day type of relatability, I think Trust Thomas is the most, like, feeling like an average day. This and Thomas Gets Bumped, his two mains in Season 3. I guess I kind of bundled them as one, but I'm going to mainly be talking about Trust Thomas. Because Trust Thomas shows how, like, stuff like friendships work, how misunderstandings could lead to incredible problems, and at the end of the day, it's all done well. Sure, we have our scratches, or in this case, Thomas is on top of a flatbed ready to be taken to the works, but at the end of the day, all is said and well, and this is what a good day really looks like. Well, it feels good at the end. Granted, it's not a good day in the middle of your day. The middle of your day will always suck, but I mean, unless they're those really good days, or just summertime, that's good, but unlike, if you're like a teenage school kid like I am, this is how your normal day feels like. And at the end of the day, it feels so nice to be put on a flatbed with a toad on your shoulder and ready to be taken to the works. And there you have it. The most relatable Thomas episodes in my opinion. Of course, it's all my opinion, and you can drop your comments down below. What you think is the most relatable Thomas episode? Do you think any of my choices were flat out wrong? Do you think my life probably looks like hell because I put up on Percy at number 2? Tell me all your thoughts and more stuff in the comments below, and I will see you next time. And then Thomas left. He had seen everything.